My family demanded I move my wedding because my sister had a girls' trip planned. I refused, they boycotted, and I married without them. When the photos blew up online, they melted down in public. And now the entire family's falling apart piece by piece. Hey Reddit, my family tried to make me move my wedding because it clashed with my sister's girls' trip. I told them no, they boycotted, and I went through with it anyway. But that wasn't the end. If anything, that's where the real mess started. Alright, so I'm Ryan, 30 years old. I work as a project coordinator for a construction company. Normal job, steady pay. In my family, I'm the quieter one, the guy who usually goes along to keep things smooth. Most days I keep my head down and avoid drama. Nora is my girlfriend, 29. We've been together 6 years. We talked about marriage plenty, so the proposal wasn't a shock. I did it at a small park near our place. She said yes, we both teared up, then we called our families. Quick family setup. My mom Diane is the center of gravity. She doesn't have to yell to get her way, people just orbit her. My dad Paul avoids conflict like it's his job. My little sister Talia is 26 and has always been treated like the main character. My older brother Gabe is 34, married already, and likes to stay neutral even when that means letting mom run things. One favoritism example so you get the vibe. A couple years back, I got a promotion at work. I invited everyone to dinner. Mom and dad said yes. That afternoon, Talia called saying she had plans with friends and wanted the family to meet her instead. My parents didn't argue, just texted me, "Sorry, your sister needs us." Gabe bailed too. Nora and I ate with her parents. My family never asked how it went. When we told people about the engagement, the first reactions were fine. Diane sounded happy and asked typical mom questions. Paul said he was proud. Talia got excited and started talking about the wedding like it was already here. Gabe texted finally and said he was looking forward to it. Nora's parents were thrilled. Her mom asked what she could do to help, and her dad told us not to stress about money. Nora and I didn't wait long to pick a wedding date. We're both busy, and we wanted to lock something in while the excitement was still there. We picked a date that felt right for us and fit our lives. Not random, not a huge symbolic thing either. Just the time that made sense, and we wanted it set before jobs or family plans started shifting stuff. Once we had the date, we moved into early planning. Guest list first. We sat on the couch with a notebook and started writing names. Nora's side went fast because her family is close, and she actually talks to everyone. My side was slower because it was half yes, of course, and half, do we even speak to this person anymore? Still, we kept it fair. Nora's family jumped in right away. Her mom sent catering ideas and offered to make calls. Her dad offered to cover part of the budget without making it weird. Her brother asked if he could help with setup. It wasn't overbearing, just supportive. My family, at least at first, acted on board too. Diane asked about colors and what kind of vibe we wanted. Paul joked about his speech. Talia kept sending me outfit links for herself. Gabe asked where the wedding would be and if we had a rough schedule. I let myself relax, thinking maybe this would be simple. Then there's my grandpa Walter, my dad's dad. He's late 70s, blunt, stubborn, and the only person in my family who's had my back my whole life. When I was a kid, if I had a school thing and my parents were busy with Talia's stuff, Walter showed up. When I graduated college, he was there front row. Even now, he calls just to check in. No agenda. When I told Walter I proposed, he said, "Good. Don't let anyone mess with your plans." That's his way of being proud, and also warning me, because he knows how my family can be. A few weeks into planning, Diane called me. She sounded casual, like this was nothing. She said, "So about that wedding date, I'm not sure it works for everyone." I asked what she meant. She wouldn't get specific, just said some people might have conflicts. I figured she meant work or something real, so I didn't push. I told her we'd already started planning and people had plenty of notice. She said, "Okay," but her tone felt loaded, like she was planting a seed. After I hung up, I tried to shrug it off, but I got that familiar tight feeling in my chest. Nora asked what the call was about. I told her it was probably nothing, and for that night I believed it. We were engaged, the date was set, families seemed happy. Still, that call was the first crack, and I knew it. After Diane's call, I thought she meant some distant relative had a work thing. I didn't think it was about my own siblings. Talia came over a few days later. She showed up in workout clothes and sunglasses on her head, like she'd just come from brunch. But the second she sat down, she got serious. She said, "Ryan, your wedding week is the same as my girls' trip." She and her friends do it every year, same general time, and she was already talking like it was locked in stone. I hadn't known about that tradition when we chose our date. We picked what worked for us and said it early so people had notice. She said it was tradition, people had asked off work, plans were already rolling. Then she hit me with, I don't want to have to choose. Nora was right there and just stared at her. We'd sent the date out early. We didn't spring it on anybody. So I said, can't you move your trip? I wasn't even mad yet. Just confused. It's a vacation. She can pick another week. Talia acted like I was asking her to cancel a surgery. She said it wasn't fair. She said I was putting her in a terrible spot. She said family should matter more than some date I picked. The way she said it made it sound like our wedding was a casual hangout that could slide around if it bothered her schedule. I told her straight, I want you there. But yeah, if it comes down to it, I expect my sister to be at my wedding. She gave me this tight little smile like I just insulted her, said, wow, okay, and walked out. She slammed my screen door hard enough that Nora jumped. That night, Nora said, she really thinks you're supposed to move your wedding for her trip. I didn't have a good answer. It sounded fake even saying it out loud. Then Gabe called. He went straight to it. Hey, I realized your wedding weekend is the same as our company retreat. You could hear he was doing that careful corporate voice, like he was trying to negotiate. He talked about how it happens every year, how it's important for his role, how his boss expects him there, how it's not a great look to skip. I asked if he could miss it this one time. He didn't say yes or no, he just kept saying it would be a tough call, and asked if our date was totally fixed. Same vibe as Talia, just quieter. Like my wedding was something he'd attend if it fit neatly around his job. So now I'm sitting there with my sister acting like I'm ruining her vacation, and my brother acting like my wedding is optional if work is busy. Nora and I were both kind of stunned. These weren't emergencies. Nobody was sick. Nobody had a real crisis. It was a trip and a retreat. Diane called the next day, and this time she wasn't vague. She said Talia was really upset and asked if I could work with her. I said, Mom, the date is set. We planned early so people could plan around us. Diane sighed like I was being difficult on purpose. She said she shouldn't have to miss something important to her. Like my wedding wasn't important too. She kept saying compromise over and over. Pick another weekend. Make it easier for family. She framed it like I was refusing to meet them halfway, even though the halfway spot was basically me moving my whole wedding. I told her we already started planning and we had reasons for the date. She said I was stubborn. She said I wasn't thinking about anyone else. The whole call felt like she'd already decided I was the problem, and now she was just trying to talk me into accepting that. After I hung up, Nora said, your mom is framing this like you're hurting them, not the other way around. She was right. I could feel the story getting twisted before it even fully started. A couple days later, I heard Talia went to Grandpa Walter. She was hoping he'd side with her and pressure me. Instead, he stayed calm and told her plain as day, you're choosing a trip over your brother and trying to make him feel guilty for it. That's wrong. No yelling, no long speech, just a clean line of truth. Talia stormed out. Later, she started telling people Walter was mean and playing favorites, which is funny because Walter doesn't baby anyone. He just says what's true, even if you don't like it. That was the moment I stopped thinking this was a normal scheduling issue. If they couldn't make it, fine, people miss weddings sometimes. But they weren't just missing it. They were pushing me to bend, and when I didn't, they acted like I was attacking them. So I called Diane back and said, the date is final. We're not changing it. Talia and Gabe can come or not, but we're done arguing. Diane got quiet and cold and said, fine, do what you want. And yeah, the tension went from annoying to real. I knew nothing about this was going to be simple anymore. Once I told Diane the date was final, things didn't die down. They got louder. Talia started texting me like I'd ruined her whole year. A steady stream. I can't believe you're doing this. Everyone already planned. You're making me choose between my brother and my friends. She'd add stuff like, I thought you cared about me. Or, you're putting me last again. If I didn't reply within an hour, another message would land. She never said move the wedding anymore, but that's what every text meant. Nora saw the notifications stacking up and asked if I wanted her to answer. I said no. I didn't want Diane turning it into, your fiancé is controlling you. I kept it between me and them, even though it was stressing both of us out. Diane's stuff was shorter and colder. At first it was, family comes first. Then it slid into, I raised you better than this. She told me I was embarrassing her, that people were talking, that I was making her choose between her kids. Paul stayed quiet. When I tried to talk to him, he'd say, your mom is upset, or you know how Talia gets. Like their feelings were my problem, and my wedding was just the spark. Gabe basically vanished. After telling me about his retreat, he stopped answering wedding texts. I'd ask normal things like, are you bringing your partner? Or, Do you need a hotel link? And he'd leave me on red. No fight, no explanation, just silence. Then I learned there was a family dinner at Diane and Paul's house. I wasn't invited. My cousin Farah told me afterward because it felt wrong. She said it was framed as a normal get-together, but Diane and Talia used it to tell their version. Diane was saying I was stubborn for no reason, that I wouldn't meet them halfway. Talia acted like the date was chosen to mess with her trip, telling people she'd never mattered to me. They talked about Nora like she had flipped a switch in me. A few relatives nodded along just to keep peace. Grandpa Walter was there. Farah said he listened, then set his fork down and said, "No, that's not what happened. He gave you plenty of notice. You're twisting it. Not angry, just clear." The table went quiet. Diane changed the subject fast, but nobody challenged Walter. Afterward, Farah said Diane looked furious in that quiet way she gets. A little later, my cousin Zane called me. Diane wasn't just venting. She was doing subtle sabotage. She told some relatives, "Don't go, this is a mess," or "I don't want you caught in the middle." And then she told others, "You should go, but don't post pictures." Zane said she even warned one aunt that, "If you go, just know you're choosing a side." She wanted the wedding to look small online either way. Around the same time, Paul pulled back on money. At first, my parents had offered to help with food. Then Paul said they needed to rethink the budget because things are tense. It felt like a quiet punishment. Support pulled back to make a point. We had to reshuffle a couple payments and push a small vendor deposit to the next paycheck. I didn't ask Walter for help. He must have heard. He called and asked what we still had to pay. I said we'd handle it. He told me to name a number. 2 days later, he dropped off an envelope and said, "This is for the photographer. Your pictures shouldn't suffer because people want to act stupid. No lecture, no guilt, just help." Then he asked how Nora was holding up and told me to make sure she was eating and sleeping. We kept moving. Guest list finished, invitations printed, sent out. I still invited Diane, Paul, Talia, and Gabe. I didn't want anyone claiming we shut them out. If they wanted to come, they could show up like adults. Talia and Gabe RSVP'd a firm no. No call, no explanation, just a box checked. Talia wrote nothing in the little comment line. Gabe stung more because he hadn't spoken to me since that first call. Diane and Paul didn't RSVP at all. Weeks passed. I asked once. Diane said, "We'll see." Paul said, "Your mom is still hurt." They were waiting me out, hoping I'd panic and move the date to get a yes. Nora and I decided to plan like they weren't coming. Not to be petty, just because that was what their actions said. We focused on people who were actually excited for us, mostly Nora's side, and the cousins staying out of Diane's orbit. Walter called me near the end of the week. He said, "Don't let them wear you down. I'll be there." That was the only promise from my side that felt solid. By then, the line was clear. My family wanted control, and I wasn't giving it to them. A week before the wedding, everything finally lined up. Venue ready, outfits picked up, final payments handled. Nora's parents had the timeline on a kitchen whiteboard. For the first time in months, I thought we might get through the week without drama. Late that night, my cousin Farah called. "Don't freak out, but Grandpa Walter's in the hospital." He'd collapsed in his kitchen. It was a bad reaction to new medication, not a heart attack, but all I heard at first was, "hospital." I threw on a jacket and drove over. By the time I arrived, he was stabilized, tired but alert, cracking little jokes at the nurses. The doctor said he needed observation overnight. They'd adjust the meds, and light activity would be fine after discharge. Diane and Paul showed up half an hour later. Diane looked straight at me. "This stress is doing this to him, Ryan. Just move the date." I stared. She said it like the wedding caused a medical emergency. "Mom, the doctor just said it was his medicine." She ignored that. "He's been worrying nonstop about you and this wedding mess. He's old, Ryan. Do you really want to risk his health over stubbornness?" Walter lifted his head from the pillow. "Diane, stop." His voice wasn't loud, but the room froze. He pointed at me. "Don't you dare change your wedding for nonsense." Then he closed his eyes like he was done talking. Diane went quiet and left. The next day, Walter was steady and joking again. "They'll use anything they can," he told me. "Don't let them take this from you." The week sprinted by. Nora's parents handled last-minute details. I checked in with the few relatives still coming, Aunt Marisol, a couple cousins, and my mom's quieter sister, Aunt Jocelyn, while most of my side stayed silent or sent regrets. On the morning of the wedding, I woke early, half expecting a last-minute text from Diane. Instead, my cousin Zane wrote, "Just so you know, your parents, Talia and Gabe, aren't coming. They told a few people it's too uncomfortable." I let the message sit and decided I wasn't going to let them own the day. At the venue, clear weather, soft music, easy smiles. Nora's family checked tables, straightened flowers, and greeted relatives. The cousins who came hugged me like they were making up for everyone who didn't. Then I saw him, Walter, walking across the lot with his cane, 1 week out of the hospital. I told him he didn't have to come. He waved me off. His doctor had cleared him. Bring the cane, don't play hero. I missed one wedding in my life and regretted it for 40 years, he said. I'm not missing yours. When the ceremony started, the empty seats stood out. 4 in the front row where my parents, Talia and Gabe, should have been. I tried not to look, but my eyes drifted. It hit harder than I expected. Then Nora came down the aisle on her father's arm, calm and steady, and the ache eased. We said our vows. Walter smiled. Nora's family cheered. When the officiant pronounced us married, the room erupted. It wasn't quiet or awkward. It was alive. Whatever those empty chairs represented, they didn't own the space. The reception surprised me. Nora's parents kept the energy up. Her cousins helped with the cake. Aunt Marisol took phone photos. Nora laughing, Walter dancing with his cane, my cousins clapping during the toast. Later, she said she wanted to send them to the relatives who stayed home, so they can see what they missed. Halfway through dinner, Zane handed me an envelope. Inside was a check and a short note in Diane's handwriting. We hope you learn the value of family someday. A check, but with strings. No congratulations, no love, mom and dad. Just a jab in careful cursive. I folded it into my jacket. Nora saw my face. What is it? Nothing important, I said. When it was time for the first dance, I looked around and saw how full the room actually was. Not perfect, not what I once pictured, but full of people who chose to be there. That mattered more than the ones who didn't. At the end of the night, Walter pulled me aside. You did good, he said. You married someone solid. Don't let the noise follow you. I nodded and tried to fix the moment in my head. The music fading, his hand on my shoulder, the calm that finally settled. The next morning, Nora and I packed quietly. We didn't post where we were going or tell anyone. We left for our honeymoon without a word. No schedule, no contact, just gone. For the first time in months, it felt peaceful. For the first few days, it stayed quiet. On the 4th morning, I decided to check my phone for the first time. The second I turned it on, the notifications exploded. Missed calls, group chat alerts, and dozens of messages from cousins I hadn't spoken to in months. The first thing I saw was a post from Aunt Marisol. She'd uploaded a few photos from the wedding. Me and Nora walking down the aisle, Grandpa Walter smiling in the front row, Nora's dad giving his toast. Her caption said, "Some people missed something they can't redo." The pictures started spreading fast. Someone shared them into one of our hometown Facebook groups, and from there it blew up. The comments section turned into a debate. People who'd known our family for years started calling out the obvious favoritism. A few wrote things like, "Not surprised, Diane's always babied Talia," or "Paul never stands up for anything." Others talked about past times my family skipped stuff for Talia. Birthdays, my graduation, that old promotion dinner. It was all being dragged into the open. Then my cousin Farah posted a short clip she'd filmed at the reception. It was Nora and me dancing slow, laughing at something she said. Her caption was simple: "Love wins." It took off. People reshared it, commenting things like, "This is what family should celebrate," and "Good for him for living his life." I saw all of this later in screenshots. My phone had been off until the 4th morning. That was what finally set Diane off. Within hours, she started commenting under random relatives' posts. Stuff like, "You don't know the full story," and "We made choices for a reason." When people asked what she meant, she got defensive. She posted one long status that read, "Sometimes family has to protect their peace, even when outsiders twist things." People love to act like martyrs online. It didn't land how she thought it would. People weren't buying it anymore. That same night, the family group chat blew up. Diane was furious that Marisol had posted the pictures and that Farah had shared the video. She called them disrespectful and accused them of trying to humiliate her. Talia jumped in, saying everyone was feeding into Ryan's victim story. She said I was manipulating people with photos like I'd staged my own wedding to make them look bad. Several cousins started pushing back. One wrote, "He invited you. You didn't show up. That's not manipulation." Another said, "You skipped your own son's wedding and now you're mad people had fun?" That's when Diane started kicking people out of the chat. Anyone who disagreed with her got removed. I didn't even respond. I just scrolled through the screenshots people sent me. Nora shook her head and said, "They're burning their own house down." Later that day, I got a message from Sienna, Gabe's partner. She apologized for reaching out, but said she couldn't stay quiet anymore. She told me Gabe hadn't wanted to skip the wedding. He'd planned to come until Diane and Talia started calling him every day. They guilted him, told him if he supported me, he was betraying the family. She said Gabe finally gave in because he couldn't handle the pressure. According to her, Diane even said, "If he's not loyal to us, he's no son of mine." Gabe broke down and told Sienna he'd go to the retreat instead. Sienna said she regretted letting him fold and wanted me to know he hadn't done it out of hate. I thanked her for being honest. I didn't blame her or even Gabe fully. I just felt tired. While all of that was happening online, Grandpa Walter decided to handle things the old-fashioned way. He showed up at my parents' house unannounced. Farah's brother Zane was there dropping something off and told me what went down later. Walter walked in, sat at the kitchen table, and asked Paul to sit across from him. Diane tried to hover, but Walter looked at her and said, "I'm talking to my son." He told Paul he'd stayed quiet for too long. He listed things one by one, starting from years ago. Remember when Ryan graduated college and you left early for Talia's party? Remember when you skipped his promotion dinner because she was sad about a breakup? You've been choosing one child's feelings over another's life for decades. Paul didn't interrupt. Walter kept going. He told him this wedding was the result of years of imbalance, not one argument. He said, "You failed him when he was a kid, and you failed him again as a man. You think silence is peace, but all it did was teach everyone you can be pushed." Zane said Paul just sat there, face in his hands. Diane tried to defend herself once, saying, "That's not fair, Walter," and he shot back, "Fair would have been showing up for your son." When Walter left, he told them, "If you can't fix this, at least stop lying about it." Later that night, I got a call from Paul. He was crying before he even spoke. He said, "Your grandpa came by. He said things I should have said years ago." His voice cracked. "I'm ashamed, Ryan. I failed you. I didn't know what to say, so I just let him talk." He said he'd finally told Diane that if she didn't apologize and stop the nonsense, he'd file for divorce. He said he couldn't live with himself if he didn't make it right somehow. It was the bravest thing I'd heard from him. But bravery and follow-through aren't the same, especially for someone who survives by avoiding storms. I sat there on the hotel balcony, phone pressed to my ear, listening to my dad fall apart for the first time in my life. He kept saying he wished he'd stood up earlier, wished he'd come to the wedding, wished he'd been stronger. When the call ended, I stared at the phone for a long time. Nora came out and asked, "Who was that?" I told her, "My dad." She asked what he said. I said, "He finally cracked." She didn't say anything for a second, then nodded. "Do you believe him?" I didn't answer. I wanted to, but I'd spent too many years watching him apologize in silence. For now, I was just shocked he'd finally said something out loud, but I wasn't ready to trust that it would last. For a few months after Dad's call, everything went quiet. No new group chats, no guilt messages, no sudden emergencies, just silence. For the first time in years, my phone didn't light up with a fresh family issue every other day. Nora and I slipped back into normal life, work, house projects, small dinners with friends. Grandpa Walter called sometimes, never about the drama, just to ask how we were. Then, out of nowhere, Diane started texting. It began with small, harmless notes. "How's work? How's Nora? I saw a movie that reminded me of you." Not the old guilt trip tone, at least not yet. She acted like everything had reset, like the wedding hadn't happened. I sent short replies, then stopped. Eventually she wrote, "We all said things we didn't mean. Time to move forward." I didn't respond. There was no apology. "We all said things" was her way of turning a choice into a misunderstanding. A few weeks later, my cousin Farah called, hesitant. "So, Talia's getting married." "Oh," I said. Talia had gotten engaged months earlier, but kept it quiet to avoid drama. Diane was helping plan like the family was healed. Big local ceremony, lots of relatives. Nora overheard. "You think she'll invite us?" "She shouldn't," I said. "But she will." 2 days later, the envelope arrived. Plain white, standard invite. No note, no acknowledgement. Just the date, time, and Mr. and Mrs. Paul and Diane invite you to the wedding of their daughter, Talia. It felt like a dare to act normal. Nora read it. "They really expect us to go like nothing happened." The next day, Talia messaged, "No hello, just her version of peacekeeping. I know things got messy, but I'm willing to forgive you if you come to the wedding. It's time to move past all that." Nora rolled her eyes. "Want to answer it?" "Yeah," I said, "but not seriously." I typed, "Oh, sorry, we can't make it. Nora has an appointment to get her nails done that weekend." Then I hit send. It matched her old excuse. Light, self-centered, dismissive. It told the truth without a fight. Her priorities didn't matter to me anymore. She read it instantly and went silent. Hours later, Diane texted, furious, calling me cruel and immature, saying I was making the family look bad? I didn't answer. That night, the real wave hit. My phone buzzed nonstop. Aunt Rita and Aunt Jocelyn, Diane's sisters, arrived in full damage control mode. Even Jocelyn, who had come to our wedding, now echoing Rita. Paragraph after paragraph. Rita, you're breaking your mother's heart. You're punishing her for one mistake. Jocelyn, families fight, Ryan, but you can't carry hate forever. None of it mentioned what actually happened. When I stayed quiet, they added guilt hooks. Your mom doesn't sleep. She cries every day. Be the bigger person. Nora told me to block them. I muted everything. Cousins began reporting a split. Some said, go for peace. Others said I was right to stay away. Aunt Marisol defended me under one of Talia's posts. He invited all of you to his wedding. Funny how that's forgotten now. Diane deleted it within an hour. Nora's parents were steady as ever. Her mom, let them spin their stories. You already lived the truth. Her dad, if she's forgiving you, she still thinks she was the victim. You can't win with people like that. We refused to spend the weekend stewing. Nora booked a small cabin a couple hours away. When the date came, we packed, turned off notifications, and left early. The drive was quiet in a good way. Trees, open road, Nora humming to the radio. We ate in a little diner where no one knew us. For the first time, the whole mess felt far. That night, under a darkening sky, Nora said, you know they're probably talking about you right now. Yeah, I said, but at least I don't have to hear it. We came home 2 days later. I turned my phone on to the expected messages. Diane, you should be ashamed. Your sister cried when she realized you weren't coming. Aunt Rita, you made your point. Enough now. Paul, wish you'd come. I answered none of them. A week later, Farah called, half amused, half exhausted. You missed a show. The wedding had been tense. Diane kept bringing me up, telling people I was still holding grudges. Talia mentioned me in her toast. She wished everyone could let go of the past. People were uncomfortable. Some left early. Nora laughed. Of course she made your absence part of her speech. That was when I realized I wasn't angry anymore. I was done. No revenge, no plans, no waiting for apologies. Just done. The next weekend, Nora and I printed a few photos from our own wedding and hung them in the hallway. Real smiles, people who showed up. No fake apologies attached. Talia's wedding came and went. Instead of guilt, I felt relief. 2 years passed without much noise from my side of the family. Nora and I moved, changed jobs, built a small life that didn't include constant drama. I still heard things through cousins now and then. Talia's marriage collapsed within a year and a half. The story changed depending on who you asked. Some said her husband left, others said she pushed him out. Either way, the result was the same. Divorced before their second anniversary. I didn't celebrate it, but I won't lie. It felt strange hearing she was going through something real and finally couldn't spin her way out. Diane handled it exactly how I expected. She went online, posting paragraphs about how Talia gave everything to someone who didn't deserve her. She painted her as the perfect victim again, the way she always does. No mention of what Talia did wrong, no reflection. Just, my poor daughter, and a string of vague inspirational quotes. Paul stayed mostly quiet through it all. His big, I'll divorce her if she doesn't change moment didn't actually lead to divorce. But something in him shifted. He stopped joining in on Diane's public drama. Sometimes he liked my social media posts. Nothing big, just small things. Like a picture of Nora and me at a park. He never commented, never reached out. It was like he was trying to show quiet support without confronting Diane head-on. The damage was already done. Then, one afternoon, I got a text from Gabe. Short and simple. Can we meet? We met at a small diner halfway between our houses. He looked tired. No big talk at first, just coffee and small stuff. Then he said, I should have stood up for you. You didn't deserve how everyone treated you. He told me he'd finally accepted that Diane and Talia were toxic, that the retreat excuse wasn't worth losing his relationship with his brother. He said Sienna had been on him for months to fix things. He didn't defend them, didn't justify anything, just said, I messed up. But it didn't fix everything. But it was the first real apology from anyone in that family. I told him I appreciated it, and for once, I actually meant it. We finished breakfast, paid the bill, and he said, You deserve peace, man. That was the last thing he said before we left, and it stuck with me. Not long after, Nora and I found out we were expecting. We didn't post anything online. We told only a few people, the ones who had proven they cared. Grandpa Walter, Nora's parents, and a handful of close friends. Everyone else could find out when they found out. It took about 2 weeks for Diane to get wind of it through some extended cousin. She sent a text that started polite and went downhill fast. It said, "I hope you don't punish your child the way you punished your family. You could have told me first, but I guess I don't matter anymore." I didn't answer. Nora read it once and said, "Block her." So I did. Then we blocked Talia too, just in case she decided to start up again. That night I told Walter what happened. He said, "You can't build a new family if you keep the old noise in the walls." That was all I needed to hear. When the baby came, everything changed in a way that actually felt peaceful. The house was full, but calm. Laughter, food, quiet late nights. 3 days after we came home from the hospital, Walter showed up holding a small box wrapped in plain brown paper. Inside was a soft blue blanket and a little wooden toy truck. "These were yours," he said. "You used to drag that thing everywhere." He held my son for a long moment. Then he looked at me and said, "This kid doesn't need noise. Just love." Months passed. Things stayed quiet. Every once in a while, I'd see Diane's posts pop up through mutual connections. All vague, all self-pitying, still trying to make her side sound tragic. I never clicked them. Then one night, I got a text from a number I didn't recognize. It was short. "Congrats, can I meet my niece or nephew?" The profile photo was blank, but the writing gave it away immediately. Talia. After 2 years of silence, that was all she had to say. No apology, no "how are you?" Just skipping straight to pretending everything was fine again. I didn't reply right away. I just stared at it for a bit. Nora saw me looking at my phone and asked, "Who is it?" I told her. She said, "So what are you going to do?" And that's the question I've been sitting with. After everything, the skipped wedding, the lies, the guilt, the years of being treated like an afterthought, part of me wonders if forgiveness is even worth it. She never owned what she did. She just moved on when she needed something. I haven't answered her yet. Maybe I won't. So, what would you do if it were you? Would you let someone like that back in just because time passed? Or would you keep the door closed and protect the peace you worked this hard to build? Guys, we are so close to hit 100,000 subscribers on this channel. If you are not subscribed to the channel, please consider subscribing. It really helps hit that 100,000 mark. Thanks for making this dream come true.